Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Scottish Games Network podcast. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Ryan.
I'm Brian Baglow.
And I'm Andrew.
And this week we have a plethora of topics to take you through, including what's on the website and what's going on with this podcast, because we've never actually told you that, despite this is the third episode, and we probably should have done that by now.
Well, I think if anything it shows that we're truly and honestly making this up as we go along. But we went out, we asked the audience, we asked the community, we asked the network what they thought, and the silence was deafening. Lots of people liked the post, but very few people actually responded, which I'm sorry to say was not unanticipated. However, after going all Grandpa Simpson on them, we did get some really good and sort of very detailed bits of feedback. So we're going to be implementing that, and we're going to be talking about it. So bear with us, because this is very much a work in progress.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
So to kick us off, let's go through what we did on the website this week. We'll start with the Glitchers move to Scotland. Brian, do you want to take us through that?
Yeah. This was great. It was really kind of unexpected. Glitchers is an amazing development studio. They were based in the heart of London, and they've done some really interesting projects in the past few years. They did Sequest, and that's a game which actually helps people learn more about the symptoms of dementia. So as you navigate this particular world, the way that you navigate, the way that you find a route can actually help identify really, really early symptoms of dementia. So they've decided to move to Edinburgh, and they're 100% invested in the community up here. They really want to get more involved. They're really keen to talk to more of the developers and find out who else is in the whole gaming ecosystem. But for the foreseeable future, they will be working remotely, but they're live and in the heart of Edinburgh. So a big welcome to Max and the Glitchers team, and we're looking forward to getting you onto the podcast at some point soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So I'm looking forward to seeing their neon sign that they've promised. This kind of cyberpunk style
the
neon sign outside the building.
Absolutely, 100 foot high. I'm sure that's exactly what he said. He promised faithfully it would be 100 feet high in the centre of Edinburgh, dwarfing the castle. So
Absolutely.
yeah, no pressure, Max, but make it happen.
I'm pretty sure I heard rumours that they were flattening part of the castle to make room for the neon sign. Like, just get rid of the outer wall, because we don't need that and it just obstructs the view, you know?
Yeah, well, the 1 o'clock gun might fall off and hurt some, tourists, but I guess that's progress for you.
Yeah, well, that's it. We've got to move on. That thing's been there too long.
Speaking about not moving on, one of the pieces I covered this week was the fact that so many people aren't moving on from GTA 5, a game that came out 8 years ago.
That was a silky smooth transition. I love the segue.
Thank you very much. We're a real podcast now, 3 episodes in. Here we are. We've arrived. Not only was I surprised at the fact that GTA 5 was one of the best sellers last year, the online game is just not going anywhere whatsoever. And the thing that surprised me about that is that it's really not part of the conversation at all on social media or just largely in the game's discourse. We hear about Fortnite all the time, we hear about Apex Legends all the time, we hear about Among Us, but GTA is up there doing those kind of numbers, and it's not really talked about in the same extent, I think.
Could it just be that it's a mainstay of this console generation, or just of gaming since, it came out at the end of the last generation? It came out at 360, yep. PS3. So is it just that people accept that GTA is here and it's always doing really well, so they never really mention, oh yeah, I'm still playing it, by the way? Whereas Apex Legends, Among Us, games like that, people are going, oh, I've just picked it up and it's great fun, I've been playing it with my mates, and they're talking about that, but they're not saying, oh, but I'm still doing heists on GTA Online.
If I may, I think the thing that you'll find is that the hype cycle did indeed happen, but it happened 8 years ago. So we went through all of this, and it was like, when the game was released, there was a huge amount of press coverage, mostly positive, rather than the ban this sick filth stuff that we've had for nearly 30 years now. So we're seeing more and more people just regarding it as part of their gaming lifestyle, as part of their day. And you're absolutely right. It's not getting the headlines. It's not necessarily generating the same sort of stories. But the fact that it's still being played and played in such amazing numbers and generating such a lot of revenue is down to one thing. It's a damn good game. We way back in the mists of time, we saw this with the very first title, which is it just kept selling and selling and selling for like a year. Whereas every other game that came out had the usual, you hype it, you release it, you've got 6 or 8 weeks and then it falls off a cliff. But the game just kept going and it was word of mouth. And I think, again, it's the same thing. I've got GTA 5, I'm playing GTA 5, I'm playing GTA Online, come and join me. And so I still think that it's the user base, the players, the community, and the fact that it's an amazingly good, fun game to play. And Andrew, you were quite right. It's no longer just about stealing cars and shooting policemen in the face. You've got walking tours, you've got mountaineering clubs. You can go and have afternoon tea with your maiden aunt, should you so wish.
Yeah, I think there must be that kind of degree of Animal Crossing type appeal to it, or maybe like World of Warcraft back in the day, where it is just like a social space for people that they, it's on their schedule just to be there once a night for half an hour, check in, and then do their thing. It seems that that's the kind of relationship that its players have with it at this point, I would imagine.
I think the main reason that this game's seen longevity is, I think, Brian, you've hit the nail on the head. It's a good game. It's that simple. They've made arguably one of the most important games of all time just by how influential it's been, how it's stuck around for so long. Any other game that came out at the end of the last generation, we'll say Last of Us, it did really well and we still talk about it, but I can't imagine there's as many people playing it now as they did back then, but people are still playing GTA. And obviously that's because of the genre, but it's also just an incredible game. I remember the first time I booted it up and just driving around Los Santos, it's a living, breathing world. It's great fun.
Yeah, I think I actually wrote that tagline for number one. Anyway, not trying to age or date myself too much. So, moving swiftly on. Andrew, it turned out one legendary TV series was coming back.
Yeah, legendary apparently. I mean, I had never seen anything to do with Games Master before this week, so it's all new to me. So Games Master, this Channel 4 program from the early to mid 90s. They decided that this is the time to bring Games Masters back, right? Say again, sorry?
Yeah. You can say last century, it's okay.
Some last century entertainment, definitely. But yeah, they decided that now is the time to bring it back through a kind of sales post saying basically calling out to brands or people that might be interested in investing in it, look, this is what's going on. So it wasn't like a kind of full-on official news announcement, but then of course the games media picked up on that, and I think everyone's just curious to see how they turn something that's just so utterly dated and to something that might be of interest today. The question I have, Brian, is, was it utterly ridiculous at the time?
It kind of was, but it was also bearing in mind, right, this was pre-Twitch, this was pre-YouTube. This was the only way that you could see games being played. And if you were a gamer, it was the first time you really got a sense on TV that there were other people out there like you. And, and it pulled in some big names, Dave Perry, the games animal, Sir Patrick Moore and Dominic Diamond, who, let's be honest, always had that peculiarly Scottish dark sense of humour and risque attitude to being in a studio full of teenagers in terms of his language. So it has to come back, but taking the early, slightly shambolic, slightly amateur approach and then reimagining it for the TikTok generation, I think that's a big ask.
Oh, that's not what we're like. Is that what we're being called now? The TikTok generation? That's upsetting.
Ryan,
it makes me wonder what do you think to your room. But it makes me wonder, what do you think is the value in retaining that name? Because you would imagine that to either they're doing the program as a complete nostalgia, kind of one-off kind of like nostalgia thing, or they're making a program for a new generation. And if they're doing that, why use the branding of something that has no cachet to a kind of new audience?
Well, it does. It does. It has a legacy. The Games Master was so big that it actually spawned a magazine. Future Publishing ran Games Master magazine for well over a decade. In fact, maybe even a couple of decades. So it only really closed down in the last few years. So there is legacy there. There is some brand value, whether or not whippersnappers like you guys recognize it or not. There are a lot of people across the gaming spectrum, and it's not all 18 to 35-year-old white males. Let's remember, there's a lot of people who remember it with great fondness, or who maybe came across a stash of the magazines in their dad's wardrobe or something. So I think it's a smart move, but whether it will retain the charm and the sort of the specialness in a world where Twitch exists, I just don't know.
Games TV shows have always been something that kind of interests me, and it kind of ended up bleeding into the article itself. We when we discussed the story at the start of the week, we just started speaking about other game shows, or game shows sounds like I'm talking about The Chase, gaming TV shows, and we started speaking about Time Commanders and a handful of other titles or shows that they're always so peculiar, but in a really cool and endearing way.
To a greater or lesser degree, it's like Saturday morning kids TV shows. Again, I'm probably going to have to bloody explain that to you as well. It's some of them were charmingly lo-fi, some of them were slick and well produced, and some of them were just downright weird. If you want a little trip down memory lane, go and have a little look on YouTube for Runaround with Mike Reed, who went on to be in EastEnders. That was just mental. But yeah, gaming was so new, gaming had no context, so a lot of TV stations, broadcasters, production companies just tried to see what they could come up with, and some of them worked, some of them hit, some of them didn't. Some of them got really cult audiences, and some of them really fell flat on their faces and should have been buried at a crossroads at midnight with a concrete slab on top of them. I won't name names, but they know who they are.
I mean, regardless, these TV shows make jobs, and do you know what else makes jobs? Games Job Live. There we go. Well, that's my segue.
That was slick. If I had to pick it apart, I would say that they're not making jobs, but promoting jobs.
Promoting them, yes.
It was pretty good for an off-the-cuff one. I'm enjoying that.
I'm trying my best. Working with professionals here, Brian.
Well, it's what I like. It's what I like to see, Brian. Keep it up, honestly. So yes, our friend Colin McDonald, the guy behind Indie Champions and Games Jobs Live, which is not a word that you want, or words that you want to say after about 5 cups of coffee, is back, and he has 3 new events running across the whole of February. So on Wednesday this week, he ran a straight down the line Games Jobs Live, come and hear from studios who are recruiting. And it's fantastic because it gives you a way to find out more about the companies who are out there, what they're doing, the kind of games they produce, the kind of roles they're recruiting for. And it's a great way of bringing people a little bit closer to the companies out there who are hiring. Because in a lot of cases, as we've mentioned a couple of times on this podcast, games companies can be a little bit reticent about talking about themselves. So that was wonderful to see. And then later this month, Colin will be doing one of the events at the Playaway Festival, more of which in just a moment. And then finally, he's rerunning his Game Jam. So we've got Game Parade, which is a game jam which will use judges from across the industry to look at the entries and really allow people to showcase their talents, their creativity, their technical skills to people actually working in the industry who are also hiring. It connects so many dots. I'm surprised we don't get a picture of a puppy.
It was actually a really cool live stream they ran for that recruitment drive. I went and watched it this morning. I watched it through on YouTube, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes. And if I forget to do that, go and shout at me on Twitter, and I'll go and edit it and change it. But what they did was they set up a Discord, as well as having the live stream, which meant that after the speakers had finished talking, you could go and directly talk to them about the job and about like the type of thing they do and what they're looking for. And it was just a really good way of like doing an online careers fair. Like, I remember back when I was in school, I went to a careers fair, and the best thing about it is not just watching someone tell you about the job, like something that they're repeating 50,000 times a day, but they're actually like sitting down with you and going, oh, this is why, you know, this is a great job to have, and this is why you should be working with us. And yeah, I think, especially considering what's going on in the world and we can't have proper careers fairs,
far too many people out there are trying to replicate live events and failing miserably. And I think coming from a gaming background has been hugely useful, because so many people out there are used to the idea of second screening, and so watching a live stream and communicating on Twitch or, you know, something along those lines, watching a YouTube stream and commenting, not just in the comment stream, but with other people who are watching at the same time. So it recontextualizes things, and it really, you know, gives you a chance to meet people that you wouldn't, even if you were going out to the E3s and the game developer conferences and every single meetup that you can in the city that you're near. So my hat's off to Colin. It's a great initiative, and I really hope it helps attract more people into long-term careers in the games industry. And finally, because it's the law now that we have to mention it at least every podcast, we wrote a lovely piece and published a good bit about Jock Finlay and Dwerg Saga, Ryan.
Yes, we did. After covering him on the podcast and over on the YouTube channel, we had to complete the trifecta and have him on the website as well. So all like that article just details a little bit about the game and my experience with it, as well as trying to sort of sell you on the idea of it and get you over there and actually download the demo and try it out for yourself. I've spoken about it enough, so I don't really want to go into it too much, but essentially the game is you'll take control of a clan of dwerg, or like they're like dwarves sort of. I explained the differences in the article, and you sort of just take them like on a journey. You'll sort of build their home and take them on adventures. Admittedly, since it's in quite early development, there's not much adventures to be had at the moment, but if you stick around with it, and you can always support him on Patreon if you want to do that to see the game move along a wee bit quicker. Yeah.
Come on. Dwarf Fortress and The Sims in Minecraft. What's not to like? Exactly. I think, as we said in the article, it's a cult classic in the making. It might not be, you know, the super casual mainstream hit, but I think there's a hardcore audience out there who are absolutely going to love it. So, you know, our fingers are crossed for Jock, and we'll be following the progress of the game as it continues.
And I'm very well aware that there'll be people watching this that are extremely talented, and considering I mentioned Dwerg Saga every week, if I don't see fan art of me as a dwerg, I'm going to be extremely disappointed.
Be careful what you ask for, I have to say.
Consider it a challenge. Excellent. So, news section done. And that may well be the last sort of in-depth news section, since some of the feedback we got was stop talking about what you wrote on the website. So we're considering it. You know, it's quite nice to summarise. You know, not everybody who's listening to the podcast reads the website. Thank you very much. But we are taking that on board, and we are going to be introducing a different focus next week, which brings us smoothly, and I do mean smoothly, gentlemen,
silky,
into the main topic, the SGN podcast. What the hell is it? Who is it for? And all that kind of thing. Now, that, guys, was a segue. That was a segue. That was a genuine link.
Yeah, no, that was much better than my forced creating jobs thing. But we try, but you know, like, it's just nothing beats experience. That's the problem.
You find so many euphemisms to call me old.
100%. I live for it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's like when redundancies roll around, you know, all of these notes are being stored. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, well, yeah, so this week we've been sort of speaking, more importantly, today, all day, we've been doing nothing but speak about the podcast and where we're taking it and what we're going to be doing with it, and we're just workshopping it. Yeah, we're really exciting to see, exciting? We're really excited is what I should be saying.
We are really exciting.
We're exciting people, and we're also excited to see where it takes us, and yeah, like I think next week's show could be an awful lot different. So if you really like this, don't worry. The same content will be found in other places, but it might not all be in this particular package.
Yeah, we're exploring our options. It's rather than go out and ask people across the industry what they want, which is a really good way of inducing high blood pressure and getting absolutely, the sound of a low
the
bell.
words teeth and pulling come to mind, and I don't know why.
Yeah, teeth pulling, blood, stone. It's there is a reason that I have a reputation across the industry as the grumpy old nag who keeps going back and asking people for things like, to speak at events or to tell me about the game that you're releasing, that kind of thing. Why would anyone want to do that? So rather than hang about and wait for that, we just jumped in with both feet and thought we'll make something, we'll publish it, we'll see what people think. But we are going to be lean, we're going to be agile. We're going to fail small, fail fast, and fail cheap, because it doesn't get a whole lot cheaper than this. Although you'll be delighted to know that we now have a paid Zoom account, so we're not going to be trying to race through the final 5 minutes and fit everything in that we forgot to blether about. But we're going to be changing things up. We're going to be evolving on an ongoing basis, a little bit like the protomolecule in The Expanse, but hopefully with less horrific consequences for humanity.
I've just thought you mentioned The Expanse, and we didn't speak about what we've been playing / watching / doing this week.
You see, we're mixing it up. We're keeping it fresh, guys.
We'll do that at the end. And also, Brian, I am incredibly proud of you. You called yourself old for once, which was nice.
I have one job here, and it's to remind everybody that I am an elder statesman of the games industry now, by dint of just hanging about for so long.
A sage.
I didn't have to achieve anything, I just had to be here, so thanks for noticing, guys.
I had a brush with the feeling old this week when we ran the poll about the podcast and discovered that overwhelmingly people use Spotify to listen to podcasts these days. When did that happen? What happened to plugging my iPod video into iTunes and downloading each episode individually, waiting for half an hour, and then, going outside, syncing my iPod, then going outside and listening to it, come back, sync it again, get the next one? What are we doing? Streaming podcasts now? What is this?
It's like a new tomorrow. It's like the future of humanity. Streaming media. Streaming media is killing the music industry / so the screen industries / video games, which I think we mentioned in the last episode. But I was kind of amazed, and it was followed hot on the heels by the number of people who listen on YouTube.
Yeah, I was shocked by that one. Because we got some feedback after our first episode being like, I don't know anyone that listens to podcasts on YouTube. It's a really clunky way to do things. You can't lock your phone and wander about while you have it or whatever. You've got to stay at your desk or whatever. So I took the executive decision to not upload the last one to YouTube. And then after seeing the overwhelming response of I think it was about 30% that were like, oh yeah, I watch on YouTube. I was like, okay, well, everything that I've uploaded to, Spotify and Anchor and all that, it's going to go up on YouTube as well. So you got a dump of an episode and 2 mini episodes on Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon even. And, you'll have this on YouTube as well. So
we're going to meet you where you are, darling consumer. We are. It's like if you're listening on Podbean or Stitcher or wherever the hell it is, even something as crazy as Spotify, we'll be there. And we have to be on Spotify. Joe Rogan can't have it all his own way. If we're there already, then, clearly they can't offer us several $1 billion to sort of leap on and save the platform. But we'll work towards it.
By the end of the month, we'll be pressing them on vinyl and selling them online. That's what we'll be doing.
You do not know.
That's when I'll get in. I'll finally start listening then.
You do not know some of my friends. Please do not make promises that we cannot keep unless it's a stretch goal for the Kickstarter.
We can tone it back, go a little bit more hipster and say cassettes if you really want to.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay. This is the generation that grew up with home computers. You're not making this any less attractive. We have an industry where one of the hottest indies in Dundee is 3D printing NES cartridges. So, retro is the new future. Please.
Yeah. The stuff Ali's doing is great. Oh, I've just had an idea. Floppy disks. Let's do floppy disks.
I am going to come to wherever you are, and I am going to pull your spleen out through the back of your throat.
Oh, love you too, Brian.
Get people asking for this. It's 3 1/4 or 5 1/2. It's half inch mag reel tape. Right, we're just going to start. No, we are not going to start listing storage media.
Okay, I'll stop.
Especially for you guys, it's something that you've only ever read about in books.
Excuse me, I have a cassette collection.
Wait, read about in what?
Yes, let's not go there. Okay. So, content-wise, what are we doing, gentlemen?
So next week there is an awful lot of playaway content. We've been chasing up, or more importantly, our lovely editor Brian Baglow has been chasing up various people that are doing talks and panels at Playaway, and we'll be speaking to a majority of them.
Yeah, we've been put in touch with quite a lot of the people who are either speaking or taking part in panels. Everyone from developers and researchers through to performers, composers, and some really interesting people who you're not going to have heard from before. And that's important because when we were talking about this earlier, one of the things that we really sort of wanted to pin down was, who is this for? What is it that we're trying to do? What is this podcast for? It can't just be about video games and antique, media. It has to be for something. And I think the key thing we've got here is the opportunity to showcase Scotland's games ecosystem. Not just the industry, not just the developers themselves, but everybody working across Scotland's video game sector, because it's an awful lot more extensive and it's an awful lot more diverse than I think anybody really realises, apart from us, because we've been mapping it and researching it. So the opportunity to go out and talk to the academics, go out and talk to the tech companies, go out and talk to the people who are helping this weird and wonderful industry evolve in so many different ways is absolutely where we need to be going. So over the next week, we are talking to at least half a dozen of the speakers, presenters and panellists who are taking part in the Playaway Festival, and we will be bringing them to you across a variety of channels, from written content on the website through to audio content and potentially even video up on YouTube. So really looking forward to that, and we've got some fantastically interesting people who I've never spoken to, so I don't quite know what we're going to get out of it, but I have a funny feeling it is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, so some of those interviews are going to be really interesting to do. We're sort of splitting them between the team, so you'll get them on a range of different platforms and content types, which is really cool as we're trying to sort of spread out that way. But in addition to the Playaway stuff, we've also got talks with British esports. That should also be going live on the channel. And a secret mystery upcoming game that I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about yet, because I don't think the developers announced it, and I feel like they should announce it before I do.
Yeah, let's not spoil it. Let's not spoil it. We're not here to kind of try and grab exclusives or break news. We're here to support and help and encourage the whole of the games ecosystem and try and showcase it. As much as that may be a thankless task, we really want to try and convey the complexity and the diversity and the total weirdness of making video games in Scotland in the year of our Lord 2021. So I think moving forward, this is kind of where we're going. We're going to be picking a big topic. We're going to be picking a chunky theme and then really sort of drilling down into it. You'll get a bit of news, you'll get a bit of, what else we're doing, because we're conversational and chatty people. But we're really going to try and pull out interesting topics that you are not likely to hear anywhere else, and talk to the people that you've not come across, not the usual suspects. And we've got so many amazingly good people in Scotland that aren't really getting seen anywhere else. I mean, let's be honest, guys. when we do see something from a company in Scotland, it tends to be we have a new game that has come out, or potentially they're hiring, but there's no real coverage. There's no real insight into what the heck else is going on up here outside individual companies. And I think that's where we come in. I think where we can do something that nobody else in the world is.
You made us sound like the video game Avengers, and I love it.
Yeah, okay, let's go with that. It's like hands up everyone who's immediately picturing them to see which one they would be.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, I know who I'm picturing you as, Ryan, but I'm not going to say.
Oh, do you know, I feel like it's just good. I think you see me as Thor, because I mean, you guys could see me, and I definitely have Chris Hemsworth's body. So I mean, it's that.
What, in a wardrobe?
Sorry.
In a wardrobe or buried under your patio?
Oh, I'm deeply hurt and offended, Brian.
I'm taking dibs. Everyone thinks I'm going to say I want to be Tony Stark, but no, I'd rather be Justin Hammer. I think as long as I'm getting the government contracts, whether or not anybody cares about the output, as long as I get the yacht, the lollipop, and I can do the slick dance moves on stage in front of an adoring audience, that's pretty much me.
Andrew, who are you?
Well, I'm like the side down here. I haven't actually seen the Avengers. I'm sorry, but
that means
I have seen Chris Hemsworth. My Chris Hemsworth story is that I was at a Comic-Con down in London. It was around the time that the first Thor film came out, and he was supposed to be doing a kind of guest Q&A, and he turned up about 2 hours late drunk. So
what a lad.
Chris Hemsworth story.
So very much the Thor from Endgame then. Okay. Nice. It's nice that he was in character throughout. That's always lovely. And I don't think I'm revealing any spoilers there.
Oh no. Dad bod Thor is definitely the thing you want to work towards.
Well, it's like, okay, it's now official that you'll have to decide which Avengers character you want to be, Andrew, because otherwise we'll pick, and I can absolutely assure you, you're not going to like what we have to say.
Can we, let's do a poll. Let's do something, let's follow us over to the Scottish Games Facebook page and let us know which one of, what Avenger each of us are. We'll open it up, just what Marvel superhero we are. You know, if you think that Brian is Rocket Raccoon, let him know he's Rocket Raccoon.
Actually, I can totally see that. I can actually see that, yeah. It's like, it doesn't swear nearly enough for my comfort level, but okay, we can go with that.
I think we are more of a Guardians of the Galaxy group than an Avengers group. You know, I think we're a bit more, mismatched than the Avengers.
Shambolic and pursued across the galaxy. Yeah,
I think I like the idea of being like space pirates / heroes. I think that's quite a cool thing to do. Now we need to start we were speaking about D&D podcasts. We need to start a Lasers and Feelings podcast where we play that tabletop RPG and we can actually be the space pirates we want to be.
Lasers and Lycra, you've got to love it.
Everyone's favourite. Oh well, I mean, I think that's a good place to end it before you start picturing us in Lycra. So, as always, this has been...
in Lycra as we speak. Come on. You guys aren't?
Well, I mean, only on my bottom half. I thought I'd spare you guys. Okay, but yeah, as always, this has been the Scottish Games Network podcast. We've been your hosts. I've been Ryan.
I've been Brian.
And I've been Andrew.
And thank you ever so much for watching, and we shall see you next time.
Take care.